Hey everyone, ready for some seriously cool science?
Always.
Today it's trending science tidbits, like those fascinating discoveries you might have missed.
Oh, yeah.
We got a whole stack of new scientist articles here. And wow, some wild stuff in
Yeah, I
here.
know,
We're
right?
talking like ocean chaos,
Mm-hmm.
talking to whales,
Really?
maybe it's in the future. Oh, and get this, quantum, like telepathy and the stock market. I
Whoa.
know, right?
That's just the start. It's amazing what scientists are looking at these days, from tiny leeches to, outer space.
Okay, so first up, the ocean. We all know, like,
Mhm.
climate change is heating things up.
Yeah.
But these articles, they say in 2023, ocean temperatures just, like, shot up.
And they haven't really come down since. It's kind of scary. And
Yeah.
we're seeing some weird stuff happening that scientists didn't expect, like, not this fast.
Oh, like what?
Well, there's a ton of coral bleaching,
Hmm.
and fish are acting all strange. There are even, sawfish dying in Florida. Yeah, it's bad. And what's really worrying is the plankton.
Right, because they're like the bottom of the food chain. Everything eats plankton.
Exactly. So any change there messes up the whole ocean.
Yikes.
And this isn't some far-off problem. This affects everyone. Weather patterns, the fish we eat, even the air.
Yeah.
Like Hurricane Beryl this year, a Category 5 that early, super rare. And it's all because the Atlantic's so warm.
Wow. Okay, let's switch gears for a sec. From the ocean to the stock market, these articles talk about using quantum entanglement to, like, communicate between stock exchanges.
Quantum. Huh.
Yeah, quantum physics.
It's pretty complicated.
Yeah, so how could this even work? Like, explain it simply.
Okay, so these researchers, Dawei Ding and Liang Jiang, they're saying we already have the tech for this kind of communication. They call it quantum telepathy sometimes.
Quantum telepathy.
Yeah, it uses this thing called entangled particles. Two particles linked. Whatever you do to one instantly affects the other, no matter how far apart they are. Right, so imagine New York Stock Exchange, Tokyo Stock Exchange, linked by these entangled particles. Information just, poof, teleports between them.
Like Star Trek.
Yeah, kinda. But the implications are real. Like, traders could use this for high-frequency trading. They'd have a huge advantage.
Wouldn't that be, like, super unfair? Market manipulation?
Exactly. Massive potential for abuse. Regulators would have a nightmare trying to keep things fair.
Yeah.
Makes you think, right? Future of finance or total chaos.
Okay, let's go from money to something, well, a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Squiggly. The articles describe this leech behavior, spiral entombment.
Ooh, yeah.
So tell me about that.
It involves these California blackworms. Super clever. They form these big wriggling worm blobs to, scare off predators.
Smart.
Right. But the leeches, they figured out a way around that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like a tiny battle right under our noses.
Yeah.
So the leech, it grabs one worm, then uses its body to completely wrap around it, like a cocoon, but spiraled.
Right.
And then, well, the worm's done for. The article says the leech sucks out all its insides, leaves just an empty shell. Kind of gruesome.
Yeah, but kind of cool, too. Like, the leech is so strategic.
One researcher even said it's like constant warfare down there. All these crazy interactions we never even see.
Whoa. That makes you think what else is going on we don't know about.
Totally.
Speaking of hidden stuff, these articles mention scientists using satellites to find, get this, hidden graves in Mexico.
Satellites.
Yeah. How's that even possible? Like, are they looking for disturbed ground?
It's way more high-tech than that. They're using all sorts of data from satellites, like roads, water, how cities are built, even cartel territories and their usual routes.
Oh, yeah.
They look for, tiny weird patterns, things that might mean there's a secret burial site.
It's like CSI meets archaeology, but from space.
Pretty much. And it works. They made a model just for Baja California, and it helped find 2 hidden graves last year.
That's incredible. And so sad. Okay, before we get too heavy, let's talk terrariums. You know, those little indoor gardens?
Yeah, they're trendy.
Well, the articles debunk this common terrarium advice.
Oh, you mean the charcoal thing?
Yeah. Everyone says put charcoal in your terrarium, right, to keep it clean.
Yeah, it's supposed to purify or something.
But it turns out you don't need it at all.
Really?
The real problem is the compost. In that warm, humid environment, it breaks down and messes everything up. The articles suggest using mineral stuff instead, like pumice or clay pellets. They do the same job, but without, rotting.
Interesting.
So healthier plants, and you save money on charcoal. Win-win. Okay, hit me with some more fascinating findings. What else is in there?
Well, there's this cool stuff about why molecules in our cells have a handedness, and they found new evidence about how humans got to Australia.
Hold on, handedness of molecules. What does that even mean?
So it's about chirality, like your hands, they're mirror images. A lot of molecules are like that too. They have left or right forms. In chemistry, usually you get an even mix of both. But living things? Nope. Like the sugars in DNA are always right-handed. Amino acids and proteins, always left.
That's so weird.
Right. Well, scientists think they might know why. They're looking at cell membranes.
Cell membranes.
Yeah, like a filter. They think early on, these membranes sorted the molecules, picked one hand over the other, and that's why life is the way it is today.
Wow, so that's maybe one mystery solved. What about Australia? Did they find a new route people took to get there?
Sort of. They found evidence for the northern right theory. You know, from Asia through Indonesia, all those islands, to Australia.
Cool. What kind of evidence? Like ancient footprints?
Not footprints, but get this. A tiny piece of plant resin on an island near Indonesia. It's at least 55,000 years old.
Whoa.
They think they used it for fire. But the point is, it means humans were there way earlier than we thought, which supports that northern road idea.
It's amazing how something so small can change what we know about history.
Totally.
Okay, what other scientific gems did you find?
Well, how about this? Using glitter to terraform Mars.
Wait, what? Glitter? Like a giant disco ball on Mars?
Not quite a disco ball, but the idea is pretty out there. They're talking about these tiny metal rods, like glitter-sized, made of iron or aluminum.
Okay.
And they want to release them into the Martian atmosphere. The rods would trap heat, warm the planet up, maybe even melt the ice and help life grow.
Wait, how could something as small as glitter change a whole planet?
Well, these rods, even though they're tiny, they're designed to be super good at trapping heat from below, but they still let sunlight through. It's kind of like an artificial greenhouse effect, but with metal. And the cool part is, they think they could mine the metal right from Martian rock.
So it's like a metallic dust blanket for Mars.
Yeah, kinda. And their models show it could raise the temperature by, like, 30 degrees Celsius? That's enough to make some parts of Mars livable, maybe?
Wow, that's wild, like something out of a sci-fi book.
I know, right?
Okay, we've got ocean chaos, quantum stock markets, leeches that make cocoons, hidden graves, and terraforming with glitter. What could possibly top that?
How about a look at the dangers of cynicism?
Ooh, intriguing, like the psychology of negativity.
Exactly. It's not just like bad vibes. This guy, Jamil Zaki, he's a psychologist. He says cynicism actually messes with your thinking. Makes you less accurate.
Seriously. So like being cynical makes you dumber.
Kinda, yeah. Plus, it's bad for communities, even economies.
Wow. Okay, so being cynical makes you dumber and poorer. That's a good reason to be optimistic. But how's that connected?
So Zaki, he did all this research, right? And it shows cynicism basically blocks you off from connections, relationships, the stuff that makes life good, you know?
Yeah.
When you're cynical, you always assume the worst about people. So then there's no trust, you get isolated, no one cooperates. And that lack of, like, social stuff leads to all sorts of bad things. Stress, health problems, the whole 9 yards.
So it's like a downward spiral. The more cynical you are, the worse it gets.
Bingo! But here's the good news. He's got a solution.
Okay, I'm listening. How do we fight the cynicism?
He calls it hopeful skepticism.
Wait, isn't that an oxymoron? How can you be hopeful and skeptical?
It's about being open, you know? Questioning things, but still believing things can get better. Like, we all have this negativity bias, right? We focus on the bad stuff. Hopeful skepticism is about fighting that. Looking for the good in the world, in people.
So like choosing to see the glass half full.
Yeah, or at least seeing that there is water in the glass. Even if it's not overflowing, it's about being more balanced, seeing the good and the bad.
I like that. Hopeful skepticism. I'm going to use that. Okay, back to the oceans for a sec. We talked about warming, all the weird stuff happening. But like, what's actually going on down there? The articles mentioned hot tub temperatures.
Yeah, some parts of the ocean are literally that warm, like hot tub warm. This jump in 2023, it was crazy fast. Scientists were not expecting that.
So is this the new normal now? Like crazy temperature swings every year?
Hard to say, for sure. But the articles talk about a few things that might be causing it. Obviously, climate change is a big one, all that heat building up.
Right.
But there's also some natural stuff going on. Remember that huge volcano that erupted near Tonga in 2022?
Yeah.
Well, it blasted tons of water into the atmosphere, and that can actually affect ocean temperatures.
Wait, volcanoes can do that?
It's not the eruption itself, it's the water vapor. It gets trapped way up high, and it can trap heat, too.
So it's like a double whammy climate change PLUS of
Pretty
Volcanoes.
much. No wonder the ocean's freaking out.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's another thing. This sudden stratospheric warming over Antarctica.
Okay, now you're just using big words to scare me. What's that?
Basically, it means the air way up high above where we live is getting warmer really fast, and that can mess with weather all over the planet.
But how's that connected to the ocean?
So this warming over Antarctica, it can weaken the polar vortex, those super strong winds around the South Pole.
Yeah.
If they weaken, it messes with air currents, and that can make Antarctica warmer, and even affect weather in, like, Australia and South America.
Wow, it's like a domino effect. Something happens way up high, and the ocean feels it thousands of miles away.
Exactly. It shows you just how connected everything is.
Okay, so warmer oceans, bad news. But what are the specific things we should be worried about?
Well, besides the obvious stuff, like the sea level rising, there's some sneaky stuff too. Like, the ocean might not be able to absorb as much carbon dioxide anymore.
Isn't that good? Less CO2 in the air.
Not really. See, the ocean's been soaking up like a quarter of the CO2 we make, but warmer water can't hold as much.
Like a sponge that's full.
Exactly. So if the ocean can't absorb it, all that CO2 stays in the air, and that makes climate change worse.
It's a vicious cycle. The articles also mentioned something about plankton changing. How does that fit in?
So plankton, they're tiny, but super important. Bottom of the food chain make lots of our oxygen. But as the ocean warms up and the currents change, it messes with their whole ecosystem.
So what happens to them? Do they just die?
Some types might not survive in warmer water. Others might do really well, and that throws everything off balance. And if there's less plankton overall, that's bad news for the whole ocean.
Yeah, because it's not just about the plankton. It's all the other creatures that eat them. And eventually that affects us too.
You got it. Oh, and to make matters worse, there's also less oxygen in the ocean now.
Wait, seriously? How's that even possible?
It's called deoxygenation. It's happening mostly in the deeper parts. Warmer water holds less oxygen, and the way the water mix is changing, so less oxygen gets down to the...
So what can we even do about it? Is there any hope for the ocean?
There is, but we gotta act fast. The articles talk about cutting greenhouse gases, protecting ocean habitats, and managing fishing better.
So basically the same stuff we need to do for climate change in general. Reduce emissions, use less, be more sustainable. It feels overwhelming sometimes, right? All these problems of the ocean.
It's a lot, yeah. But the thing about science is it's also about finding solutions. And we have made progress in some areas. Did you know that for a while we were actually improving the climate impact of food production?
Really?
Yeah. From 1961 to around 2010, the greenhouse gases from making protein went down by 2/3.
Whoa, that's huge.
It shows we can make a difference when we focus on it and use technology the right way.
So what happened after 2010? Why did it stop getting better?
There are a few reasons, and they kind of show how complicated this whole food thing is. For one, people are eating more meat, and meat uses way more resources, produces more emissions than plants.
So it's not just how we make food, it's also what we eat.
Exactly. Our choices matter a lot. Plus, we're using more crops for biofuel. That takes away from food production and makes the whole system less efficient.
It's definitely complicated. But hey, we did make progress for decades, so it's not impossible.
Right. We can find ways to make food more sustainably, waste less, and eat more plants. It takes new ideas, policy changes, and just people making better choices.
Okay, let's end this section on a positive note. Any other cool or inspiring science stories in those articles?
There's one about a new way to keep buildings cool. It uses a zigzag design and saves a ton of energy.
Zigzags, like painting zebra stripes on buildings.
Not quite. It's about building the walls with these zigzags sticking out. They're positioned just right so they radiate heat and reflect sunlight better. It's basically a passive cooling system, no energy needed.
So like the building itself is a giant radiator.
Yeah, kinda. And it works really well. Tests show it can keep walls 3 degrees Celsius cooler, and you might use 25% less energy for cooling.
That's amazing. Like using simple physics to solve a problem.
It is pretty clever.
Yeah, sometimes the simplest ideas are the best.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered a lot today. The ocean, quantum stuff on the stock market, even terraforming Mars with glitter. And we can't forget those leeches and their spiral entombment thing. Science is wild, right?
It really is. There's always something new to discover.
Totally. So after this whirlwind of science news, what's the one big takeaway you hope listeners will, remember?
That's a good question. I think the thing that connects all these stories is, well, interconnectedness.
Interconnectedness.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if we're talking about the ocean or climate change or even, our own minds. Everything's linked in ways we don't always see.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Our actions have consequences, both good and bad, and they spread out, They affect not just us, but the whole world around us.
That's a good point. We're all part of this big web of life, and what we do matters. But it's also a reminder that even with all these huge problems, there's still hope. We can change things for the better. We just got to be open-minded, question things, and work together to find those solutions.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, that's a wrap on this episode of The Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the latest and greatest in science.
It's been fun.
If any of these topics, really caught your attention, check out the full articles from New Scientist. We'll link them in the show notes. Until next time, stay curious.